Hello, and welcome to Pink Moon Lodge, Episode 6, with your hosts, Amy Kruzic and Patti Lucia. In this episode, we discuss the film Sound of Freedom and how faith gives us the strength to face evil. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to Episode 6 of Pink Moon Lodge with your hosts, Patti Lucia and
Amy Kruzic.
And we are so grateful for you joining us today. As many of you know, we are going to be talking about the movie Sound of Freedom. We understand that it's controversial, but we're thrilled to be talking about it. Well, I don't know if thrilled is the right word because, well, yeah, it might not be the right word. It was a hard movie to watch, but we both agree that it's a very, very important movie to talk about. So we wanted to get into it. Now, before we do, we would like to just ask if you are watching this video and you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel or Rumble or the podcast you might be listening to, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. If you can hit that subscribe button, it really helps us out in the algorithms, and that's kind of what we're going for. It helps our reach. So please just hit that subscribe button, like the video if you like it, and certainly give it a thumbs up, and in comments too. We would love to hear your comments or get your questions. You guys might have some this week, we'll see. So we're going to get into it. The Sound of Freedom. We're going to be sharing some highlights. So we did want to give you guys a heads up that there are going to be some spoilers here. So proceed with that knowledge if you would like. And so we're going to be sharing, obviously, our responses to the movie, and we're going to be touching on some of the controversies, some of the other responses to the movie, some of the, politics. Now, Amy and I do not we don't, this isn't a political show. We come from more a spiritual perspective. So we're going to keep our perspective in that tone, though it is almost impossible to talk about this movie and the responses to it without addressing the politics behind the responses. We are going to do that, but again, always holding to more of a bird's eye view, more of a spiritual perspective on all of this. And that's that's what we're doing today. We're so glad that you've joined us, and we're gonna get right into it.
All right, Patti, this one's a tough one for me. It was a tough one. I really, the way they put it together was beautiful because they did not expose any children to it, but you knew what was going on. In the first 10 minutes, if you remember, how they groomed the children. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you have a beautiful voice. Do you remember the one? And they have this beautiful woman, dressed nice.
Wasn't she like a former Miss something or other?
Oh, maybe she was.
Like, she was really beautiful. She was a former Miss something or other. I don't know how she got involved in
Honduras,
all of this.
Maybe. That's where they started. They started in Honduras. Yeah.
Right. It does start in Honduras. It's poor community. And they and there are these brochures, or there's this thing put out about children who could be in the movies or could be models.
Yes, models or movies. And this sweet girl had a beautiful voice, if you remember. You could hear her singing, with her drum on her bed. And it's kind of like how it started out.
Yeah.
And I forget how that girl came upon? They must have had a meeting first because she came back to the house. And
they were knocking on doors, I think, and sharing the
yes,
brochures. And of course, the children get all excited. And then they're like, Daddy, Daddy, we want to do. And this is
yes.
kind of what happens. And so he brings them to this place, right, for auditions
Well,
and
wait a minute.
whatever.
Let's go back to that.
Okay.
When she knocks on the door, and the girl, the sweet child, comes to the door. Well, who's peeking behind her but her little brother?
Her little brother, right?
And that you see the eyes meet.
Yeah, who catches the eye of the? Yeah, there's
I
two.
didn't know you had a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I'm getting chills right now. I mean, that just, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
So this kind of trafficking happens in all kinds of ways. And again, this movie is really focused on this particular case with these particular children because Tim Ballard it was very much involved in this particular case. So it kind of the movie exposes a much broader problem, but focuses on this particular case with these two children out of Honduras. So this is by far not the only place where this is happening.
Saved children, right?
Yeah.
And he worked for Homeland Security, if you remember, and then he was only targeting the pedophiles. He didn't know. He didn't forget. He just didn't know what to do about the children of these pedophiles.
Right. And at one
point,
that
was his heart. Yeah, that was like, what about these children?
Right. And so one thing that really comes up in the movie and I think is really important is that Tim Ballard was recruited. He was working for Homeland Security and he was recruited to work on this task force that hunted down these pedophiles, like child traffickers, like sex traffickers. And the gentleman who recruited him told him that he specifically recruited Tim Ballard because he knew he was a man of faith. And if he was not a man of faith, this was something that the darkness of this could consume him. That it was really important that whoever he was recruiting was a person of faith because they were going to need it.
Yes.
To deal with and to face down some of the things that they would have to face. And of course, Tim Ballard's role required that he look at hours and hours and hours and hours of videotape of children being abused. And that is the real darkness of it. When you have to, so he basically had to look, it's almost like transcribing videos where he had to look at the video and then write down what is actually happening in the video to be, brought into evidence, I guess. And this is what he had to do with hundreds of hours of video. And that I can't.
No. And if you watch the Jordan Peterson YouTube interviewing him and Jim Caviezel, he said that his wife was the one because he had asked his wife, what, they're asking me to go and find these children. And he was hoping that she would say, no, you can't. You have 6 children at home. Right. But no, she said, no, you're going.
Yeah, the wife ended up being a really big influence.
Part of it, yes.
A really big influence, even though she doesn't play a really big role in the movie, in terms of his decisions and his motivation, and his strength to do what he did. She played a big part.
The support. I forget. There was something she said. So that interview kind of is good because it tells you the things that weren't really in the movie because they couldn't put everything in.
They couldn't put everything in the movie.
No. But they did focus on these 2 children. On
these 2 children who had been trafficked along with several others who are trafficked, who are so the father shows up later to pick up his daughter and his son, and the whole room is bare and they're gone. They've been hauled away in a van. And they end up being kind of put in a container on a container ship and shipped up and South
America.
Yeah. So that is, that is their story. And once the boy is found,
yeah, you know what? The boy was found first in Mexico.
The boy was found
remember?
first.
Yes,
over the border.
Yes, over the Mexican border.
He was being transported over the border to be sold. And one of the things now, this kind of trafficking has now surpassed in the money that is made. This far surpasses the drug industry.
Yeah, yeah.
So now, sex trafficking, human trafficking, far exceeds in terms of what
Arms
is made
trade.
per year. Yeah, what is made every year on the drug trade. And so one of the it's a real kind of a jaw-dropping moment, I think, in the film. And Amy, you probably would agree with this, when he says, well, you can sell a bag of Coke once, but if you have a child, you can sell that child several times a day.
Disgusting.
For 10 years.
Yeah.
So several times a day for 10 years. And so that's a lot of money to be made on one child. So you can see how this industry is greatly expanding. As a matter of fact, they said that it had expanded exponentially in just the last couple of years. And is definitely,
and mostly in the U.S.
Mostly in the U.S. The U.S. is the biggest consumer of this, and in the form of pornography. So pornography, the pornography industry feeds this industry.
Patti, I just can't. It's hard for me. I can't even imagine, like, think about the children that we taught in school. I cannot even imagine men wanting to have a young child. That just, I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about.
Yeah. And there's a lot, and Jordan Peterson is a psychologist, and he actually gets into the psychology of that it comes in increments, incremental perversions. And each perversion becomes deeper and darker until you get to, the most perverse, which is the most perverse. And so he really does see it as a darkness. He sees it as kind of like a Luciferian, satanic kind of
pure evil,
like pure evil. But it gets a foothold. And then and this is why being a person of faith and dealing with this kind of darkness in a job or in a profession is so crucial. So it kind of goes in increments to where you have where it gets to that and because the perversion is so connected to sexual arousal, then it's the sexual arousal with each level of perversion as you go. So Jordan Peterson as a psychologist kind of describes it in a very kind of clinical way, but also a spiritual way. Like he kind of combines the two, and I had a lot of respect for that, and it made so much sense. So I'm not doing any justice to how Jordan Peterson
you'll have to not know you are, but
described it. But he really did break it down as a progression psychologically and spiritually. Like it's a psychological and spiritual perversion and breakdown. And once it starts, it goes.
It's almost to me a
darker.
demon. A demon enters somehow.
Yeah.
into
And
these
I believe,
people.
you and I believe in this stuff. It's kind of funny, like when you're spiritual, people think, oh, you don't believe in demons. That's Christian stuff. And I'm like, no,
This is
I believe,
yeah,
I believe that, some of this stuff is really demonic. Like I do think that some of the hardcore people who are involved in this are probably possessed by different entities.
something
Yeah,
exactly.
by entities
I
that
believe that.
feed off of this kind
And
of pain
I
and
I am
suffering of
getting that
children.
now. Yeah, because I did not
Mm-hmm.
understand until Andrew brought us
Mm-hmm.
about entities. I
Yeah,
did not understand. What are you talking about? Entities can enter
yeah.
people. No, but now I understand.
Yeah, and
Now I
people,
get,
we don't, we kind of, there's most people poo-poo that sort of thing.
yeah,
They
yeah,
really
but
do. They poo-poo it, and I think that that's a mistake. There's an expression. It's like the most powerful weapon Satan has is that people don't believe he exists. And
yes,
so I think that that's true for any form of evil. Is the most powerful weapon, that form, whatever that form is of evil, is that people don't believe it exists, or they believe that that could never happen. Like that could never happen here. That doesn't
no,
happen.
but
We were talking about being we were Avi and I were talking about being civilized. We were having this pre-show conversation about that because we're going to be talking about food and civilization and food and beginning to yeah, it's savage to eat with your hands and all that sort of thing, but in a way not so. But at any
yeah,
rate, we were and so, but I think a lot of people believe that that this kind of thing can't happen in like
yeah,
civilized cultures, and we are a breeding ground
yeah,
for it, because most people um, don't believe that entities exist, and then they drink till they black out,
mhm,
and they do drugs, and they don't
mhm.
realize that when they're in these states,
Those-
they are most vulnerable
yes,
for possession and
a
for
low
entities
vibration
coming in for
state.
a lower vibration state.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, and that's something that
but I
you
never
know
connected. But I never connected the devil. See, the devil, the Catholic Church, he was always separate. I didn't realize that, he can enter into someone's body and take over.
well, yeah, but
Oh,
I
an
mean, when
entity,
we're
but yeah,
yeah, entities. I mean, like,
yeah. I just
they're
didn't know. I'm honestly, guys, I just didn't.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
and
It
they're
just never
different
occurred to
kinds. They're all different
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah, they're
entities,
all different kinds. So
all different kinds, and so when you have so you have parasitic
yeah,
entities, right? And you have like entities that are very twisted and distorted and um feed off of pain and
yes,
fear
yes,
and yeah, and are in so feed off of that kind of energy. So they're
spiritual hygiene is important.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and no, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And so, um, so when people watch porn,
yeah,
right? Let's, just because we'll get back to the
yeah,
movie in a second. But when
yeah,
people watch porn, like, the popularization of porn in recent years has boggled my mind. It's
yeah.
like, why would we want to popularize something? Like it's in songs that people are just like,
Money
oh,
making.
everybody watches porn. And it's like, well, wait, so porn has been normalized.
Yeah,
And what people don't really get, and porn becomes addictive.
yeah,
Porn has been destructive to marriages and to relationships and to genuine intimacy in general.
hmm,
And what people, I think the last thing that people are thinking is that that entities um, can enter you through porn. Like that's just stupid. Like why would you even think that? But it's I think that parasitic entities will look for opportunities to um, who enters someone's light body and enter their, enter their presence, and feed off of their energy. And one of the most powerful energies we have is sexual energy.
Yeah.
You know, the power of orgasm, you know, and so people don't, so of course, there are going to be entities that want to feed off of that and feed off of it in a very dark and negative way. So, spiritual hygiene. Really important. And honestly, I know people who have been addicted to porn, and it's been very, very difficult for them to break free, and it has cost them relationships. And people listening might know exactly what I'm talking about. So, but at any rate, it's no surprise that this whole kind of trafficking involving children has been fed by the porn industry. So there's this whole aspect in of the porn industry that has to do with child porn. And so they, at any rate, this is what Tim Ballard was investigating in this case, in Sound of Freedom. And there's a scene where they do find a man who is involved in
the cartel.
This was the man who did end up in jail, and had shelves and shelves of videos. And so he would put out these videos to his clientele, right? I guess on the dark web. And they would be a sampling. So a sampling of the products that he had, which were children. And these short video clips of these children.
And that's what got him to after they got him. He set him up, if you remember.
Yeah, he did.
Tim pretended that he wanted a child because he was looking for the sister of the brother. That was his main thing. Yes. Yes, he set him up.
He set him up, and they find the boy first, who is being taken over the border by his owner. So this was a guy who owned the boy and pimped him out, for services. So he was coming over the border, and that's when that's when the boy was rescued. And a heartbreaking scene is at the hospital. When the nurse says that his injuries and his lacerations were consistent with what had been going on with him. So, but at any rate, when Tim Ballard decides that he finds out that he has a sister, and he's on this mission, his higher ups basically say, this is as far as we'll go. We're not going to send you into a country in South America to look for
find
this child. And there's so he's up against a dilemma, of course. And his wife weighs in and says, well, and it's the opposite of what you would expect a mother of 6 children at the time to say is, well, then you need to quit your job and go.
He was like 12 months from his pension.
He was.
He lost all that. He lost pretty much.
It was about $12 million, like all said and done, that he walked away from.
He walked away from it. And it was that when the little boy, I don't remember his name, but the little necklace, the sister gave her brother the necklace that said
there's some interesting synchronicities.
It said Timiko on there.
Timoteo.
Timoteo.
which is Timothy in Spanish. And so and this was real. This was a real necklace that the sister had worn. And when they were separated, she gave the necklace to her little brother. I believe.
Yeah.
Didn't she? Yeah, she gave the necklace to the little brother.
Because they separated them. They separated them, you know.
And so when Tim rescues the little boy, and he's introducing himself, he's giving he's bought the little boy a hamburger, or like a burger, right? And the little boy is sitting there, and of course the little boy is looking at him like, oh man, is this another, am I gonna, you know, he didn't know to trust him, right? And it was the moment that Tim told him his name, you know, and because Tim said, you know, my name is Tim, or Timoteo, you know, in Spanish. And the boy's eyes lit up and said, Timoteo, Timoteo. And he showed him the little necklace. And it was at that moment that the boy had some kind of understanding that that this man was going to help him. Because it was the name on this necklace. And I guess that was for Saint Timothy.
Yeah. Saint Timothy. Yeah.
Do you know what Saint Timothy is like? No. What Saint Timothy? I feel a little, I feel like I should know that. Are you looking it up right now?
I'll look it up.
Look it up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look it up right now. I'm sorry. I should know this, and I don't, but well, I don't know why. It's not like I was ever a really good Catholic, but at any rate. But so it was at that moment. So I would, you know, I would consider that like a sign or a synchronicity. Yeah. That was, you know, it was such a poignant moment in the movie. And then of course that necklace comes back around when at the very end, after the girl is rescued, she wants to give that necklace to Tim, like a thank you, right? For everything. Yes. When they're finally reunited. And you know, and he does he take it?
I think so.
Yeah. Finally, he realizes that it's really important for her, for him to have it. Okay. I have to.
Timothy means honoring God. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's what Tim was about.
And that's what he was doing. That is for sure.
Yeah.
So there was this moment, I have to say, when he kind of goes and he's gonna rescue the girl, and where he has to go, because she has been sold to some drug dealer in Colombia.
Oh yeah.
He owns her, and he goes by Scorpion. All right, so that says a lot. And Tim's journey takes him deep in like the Amazon jungle, where, you know, I mean, even the people, even his contacts were like, look, I can only go so far with you. You're on your own from this point on.
But did we miss the point about the wasn't there that cartel guy that was with him on the boat? They were going to take the boat down to where she was, or
there was
he helped him along the way and knew a lot of people.
There's this guy, and he's a really interesting character. So he's a former drug cartel guy.
Yeah.
Who used to, you know, make his money all kinds of ways. And he had a moment, he had a kind of a come to Jesus moment. When he had gotten drunk one night, he had made a lot of money, got drunk one night, and had, you know, was spending the night with a prostitute.
Yeah.
And she had said she was 25, and she turns out to be much younger.
15.
And he's kind of getting sick. But then he finds out that she'd been doing it, like she was much younger. She was like 15.
Yeah, yeah.
But she had already been doing this for close to, like, how many years? Close to 10. It was just, it was unbelievable. And he literally got sick. He had his come to Jesus moment, and realized that he was the darkness in her life. Like, he represented an aspect of the darkness in her life, and wanted to expunge, you know, wanted to purge that darkness from himself. And so kind of became a,
crusade, a little bit.
A crusader for good, you know.
For good, yeah.
And that's how he connected with Tim and ended up being the one guy um, who would go into the middle of the Amazon, you know, to, rescue. You know,
Yeah,
basically, what they were doing in order to get there is they had to pretend that they were medical guys. So they had this whole ruse,
yes,
right, where they would go into these
yes.
villages and, oh, we have these vaccines there. We've detected this new disease and we have these vaccines and all this stuff. It was like this whole, and they were these two medical guys. And so, and they made sure that they had that set up. So they already had like a reputation. There was already this reputation out there that there were these two doctors
Yes.
bringing medicine to
But
these
if you,
remote areas. So they
I,
had their backstory, right? They had their backstory all set
yeah.
before they headed to this compound, which was run strictly by these drug cartel guys.
But
And
before that, can I go
yeah,
before that?
yeah, yeah,
Because if you remember, they, okay, Tim had a billionaire friend and he wanted to make this, do you remember, like this hotel thing to bring the girl, to
yeah.
bring the, this is how he started searching for the sister. He's like, there's so many that he had to get them together somehow.
They were putting together a sting operation.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, I think the guy was like, no, I don't want to do that. But then he ends up and they do that, right? And they have this island and it's a party island.
Yeah, kind of interesting, right? So
it's
an island. There's a hotel on this island. And
yes,
what they wanted, what he's not, and Tim is acting like he's some big money guy, and he wanted 100 children.
Yeah, he
requested 100 children for
to come
this,
on
and
this
he was going to pay a certain amount for each child to come on this. And so he, they
come on the island, the kids come on the island.
And so there were these people who had been, obviously trafficking, and they were like, oh yeah, I can get you. How many can you get me? Yeah, I can get you. And that's how he got the traffickers who had originally gotten these two young siblings.
Yeah, right.
But he also rescued, I think in that operation, he rescued, I don't know, maybe 100 children.
All of them. That's when it's like, wow, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is, and if you remember when the cops came on the island and busted everybody, and even including Tim, but not really. You could hear the children, and he said, that's the song of freedom.
Right.
When the children said, when they were singing and dancing and when they were happy, it was like,
wow. And that's the where the title of the movie comes from.
Yeah.
Was when the children realized that they were going to be free, they began to sing.
Yeah.
To sing and to find joy again, or find relief.
So from that island, take over, how did they I can't remember how they got to this particular place in the mountains. Was it somebody?
Well, because he was looking for that girl. He was looking for the sibling. And so they rescued all of these children, but she was not among them.
She was never among them. Yeah.
And it broke his heart. She was not among them. And so, and then they realized they felt like they were at a dead end. What do they do? And then they found out from one of these guys that they had arrested.
Yeah.
Spilled the beans and said, because they had a picture of her. And this guy said, well, she was sold to Scorpion.
Yeah.
The Scorpion. And they were like, you don't go there. You don't go there. And he didn't want to take no for an answer. And of course, everyone else around him was like, I don't think so.
I can only take you this far.
And it was the crazy ex-cartel guy.
Yeah,
who was like, I'm down. It's kind of like he's like, well, if I'm gonna die, why not die this way? And they ended up getting, and the whole time I have to tell you, while I was watching that whole part, and they actually got to the compound, and he actually saw the little girl in the compound out in the middle of the jungle. And I'm thinking, and he was there alone. Tim was there alone.
Yes, because
they wouldn't allow the other guy to come with him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this isn't gonna go well.
Uh,
I was like, how is he gonna get this little girl out of
because
this?
he tried to communicate with her, and Scorpion always had his eyes on
Mm-hmm.
her. Like he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't gonna let her be by herself,
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
tries to communicate to her, but she kind of doesn't understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, when she turned around and it was her, Patty,
Mm-hmm.
she looked 10 years old, like
I know.
older. She looked
Then
so old,
yeah.
like she had
Yeah.
aged.
Yeah.
Um,
And he knew, by the way, the way that he knew, and he did not see her face at first. He recognized that she had been tattooed.
that's right. Yep, they were
It
tattooed.
was like branding, like they were
Right.
branded with these tattoos.
That's right.
And so yeah,
Yeah,
that's how he knew it was her because
of the
and so
tattoo.
then he called her name and she responded to it. But yeah, she had
Yeah.
been branded. Yeah.
Rosea was her name.
Yeah, something like that. So he got, so she was rescued. It was a major victory. And so then, you have The Sound of Freedom,
Yeah.
as a movie, a story that needed to be told,
Mm-hmm.
and it was put together, and it had been and it's not a new movie. It was out
No, it
before.
was out 4 years.
It was owned by Disney. Disney didn't want to put it out.
Mm-mm.
Disney would rather put out,
Barbie.
Raiders of the Lost Ark and Barbie, which we'll get into,
Oh
but
my.
not Sound of Freedom. And it turns out that Sound of Freedom, outdid Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I
Yeah.
think the Tom Cruise movie as well, the
I don't
Mission
know.
Impossible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it outdid that. So
Well,
at this
in that,
moment, I think it has grossed well over 100
oh, what did,
million.
yeah,
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 it's like 105, 110 million at this point. So it's doing so people want to see this movie. It was very respectfully done.
yeah,
It's based on true events.
yeah,
And the response to it, we can get into that. The response to it has been really interesting and in some ways
yeah.
predictable. Um, but
Yeah, tell us because I didn't. But one thing I do want to say before you do that,
yeah.
is that in the Jordan Peterson interview,
Mm.
they said this is so important because it's happening now,
Mm-hmm.
rather than making a movie 40 or 50 like
Yeah.
Schindler's List or
Yeah, like
Rwanda.
Schindler's List. Yeah, the movies that were made about atrocities that were made decades afterwards, after
Yeah,
it had already been
what's the
brought to justice or
exactly?
whatever. Here is a movie that's being like, so could you have put out Schindler's List in 1942?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
brave. That's brave.
could you have?
Is
Probably not, because there might
no,
have
no,
been
you
some
couldn't.
surprising people who would have panned it or who would
Yeah,
have suppressed it because
yeah,
they were in with the
yeah,
whole regime until it was not cool to be
yeah,
in with the regime. I mean,
yeah.
let's face it. I mean, Hitler was actually the man of the year on the New York Post in, I forget what year it was, but like he was
Mhm.
touted as this
Mm,
savior of Germany, and for a long while until people,
mm,
kind of woke up to what was
mhm,
really going
mm.
on there, or decided that they couldn't ignore it anymore, whatever the case may be. But, so if this had come out the same year, if Schindler's List had come out the same
Yeah,
year that the New York Post is touting Hitler as the man of the year, it probably wouldn't have probably wouldn't
yeah.
have done well.
No,
You,
no.
you know what I mean? So it probably would have been attacked for, why are you attacking a
Mm.
man who has saved Germany?
Well, that's
Um,
right. But
you know
that's
what
why
I'm
it's so important to make these movies, and I think that's what their goal is, to make these movies.
Mhm.
I think Jim Caviezel was in The Chosen, the movie The
Yeah,
Chosen.
yeah,
I haven't seen that, but I think it's important because it's happening now,
yeah. It is. It's happening
and
now, and
we don't need
and
these Barbie movies.
no, and here, here's the thing.
I'm
Jim
sorry, but
Caviezel has, and he will tell you in interviews,
yeah,
he has lost agents, he has lost lawyers, he has lost contracts because he is in this movie. So that tells you how Hollywood feels about a movie like this, very differently than how their response to the movie Cuties. So when Cuties came out, which really was a movie that highlighted the exploitation of young girls mostly, that was touted as bold and brave and a good this and a good that in Rolling Stone and all of these, all of these periodicals. It was, in Hollywood, but in the meantime, ordinary Americans were appalled. They had to pull it.
Yeah.
They had to pull it because people were like, why are you, so the outrage was so strong that they had to pull it. In the meantime, though, Hollywood was praising a movie like Cuties. So it will praise a movie like Cuties and pan a movie like Sound of Freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so, that is really telling. And so I found it really telling to look at, okay, who's
it's
coming
investigate.
at. Yeah, because here's the thing. It's kind of like, oh, well, this is, so here are some of the things that are being said. And it's not but it's just been a firestorm of criticism about this movie and about the people in it, kind of character assassinations for Caviezel and for Tim Ballard, just character assassinations. And most of us have kind of, if we're awake at all, we understand that when people are having their characters assassinated, it's because they've hovered a little bit too close to home. Like they're a little too close to the mark and whatever they've put out, and their characters have needed to be assassinated. How long has Mel Gibson been had his character assassinated in Hollywood, only to find recently that okay, well, Mel Gibson was probably right about a lot of that stuff he was saying.
Exactly.
Maybe he wasn't as crazy as everybody said he was. Wow,
And he's coming out with something else, something new about this.
He's
about this.
I think he's doing he's also his new movie, because he did The Passion. I think he's doing The Resurrection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, but so there's something about human trafficking he's doing.
Yes. Well, I think he might be involved in the next one after this movie. Next one after this movie, I think, is going to involve interviews with rescued with those who are have been rescued from child trafficking.
Yeah. Because Tim did say that they rescue the children, that it doesn't stop there. Like they have these actual homes that they go to. It takes 3 years. 3 years.
Mm-hmm. You really need
the aftercare.
You need the aftercare. If you're not given the aftercare, then and even with the aftercare, trying to live a completely normal life after that is really, really difficult. But the aftercare is absolutely crucial. Yeah. So without that, you are you're damaged. You're damaged and we may know people. It seems like, folks know people, who were, say sexually abused as a child. They never really got the help they needed. Right. And then they end up, their relationships fall apart. They end up being abusive to their own children, or, like they're just, they end up being really troubled if they don't get the help.
That's why I said to you. Yeah. Because the Catholic Church and the pedophiles there.
Yeah.
For the children they abused, there was no aftercare.
No, there was no
all the money they have.
There was just silence and shaming the victim.
Yeah.
And shaming the victim.
Yeah.
So, and that's a whole other. That's a whole other thing. We could talk for days about that. But just getting back to the movie.
Yeah.
So, and some of the criticisms. So you have these character you have these character attacks. So, and they're coming from all different places. And so even in the truther movement, right? You have people coming out of the woodwork. And I don't really know what the pathology is in the truther movement that causes people to want to attack anyone who's met with any kind of success. If they've met with success, there has to be something wrong with them. And this was a successful movie, so there has to be something wrong with Tim Ballard.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's a whole, I think, pathology in the truther movement that people need to kind of maybe take a closer look at. But at any rate, so one of the attacks on Tim, so one of the things that he's being accused of is that he wants, so they're putting out that, for instance, he wants all children to be chipped, which is not true. Tim Ballard has never said that. He doesn't support that. He does not want you to chip your child.
No.
There might be people, though there might be people in high places who want to chip your child and would be just fine with using this movie as an example of why, but it isn't Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard does not think that that's a solution.
No, that does not.
But there might be people with more nefarious intentions,
reasons why
are like, oh yeah, then this is a great reason why you should have
your child won't
chipped.
You won't be won't be trafficked if he's chipped. I mean,
right. But here's the thing about that too. If people are going to make that argument, the children who are targeted for these kinds of abuses and trafficking are always the most vulnerable. They are generally immigrant children. They are from poor families. They're from families who do not have the resources to fight back. And we see this continuously. That is why 85,000 missing immigrant children who have just come into the United States is a terrifying thought, because these are the most vulnerable members of this, of this group who have come into the United States through the southern border, and nobody knows where the heck they are. 85,000 children.
Well, Patti,
many of them under 5. Yeah, go ahead.
This is where I feel helpless. Like I don't know. It breaks my heart, and yet it's like, what can I do? And I know we talked about it before.
Yeah, we did.
Which is stores. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Stores.
And so this is, so for one thing, I think, as much as Hollywood has lashed out and different forces have lashed out about this movie, and I think my own personal opinion is because there is something that they wish to hide, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it eventually. But I think that supporting this movie and supporting the movies that come after it are really, really important. So at the end of the movie, Tim Ballard is it Caviezel or Tim?
Caviezel.
Is it Caviezel? Caviezel comes on.
Yeah.
And he talks about this movie and how important it was to make. And he asks people to pay it forward by buying movie tickets for people, who might not be able to. Can't afford it. And I think that is one way to do it. There are also organizations that are, have been working on this issue for a long time. One of them is Tim Ballard's organization. And then, of course, there are other organizations that have been working on the problem and of the issue of child trafficking. And like I was telling you, I recently had the experience where I needed to go and I had to buy some jewelry. I'm going to these weddings, right? Up in Massachusetts. And I need to accessorize, right? So I'm like,
of course you do.
I got to accessorize. I got my outfit, but now I need, the necklace, the earrings, whatever. So I'm in downtown Gainesville, Georgia, right? And my cousin Vicky and I were going, shop to shop as I'm looking for very specific things, right? I wanted turquoise, and I wanted mother of a pearl, like lake, lake pearls, like freshwater pearls. So anyway, and so we're looking, and we go into this shop, which is a fantastic little shop. It had, I love the stuff in it, and it had jewelry, and I was looking at a couple of pieces, and I was like, I don't know, should I spend? I really love these pieces. Should I spend? And then I looked at the tag, and actually Vicky picked it up, and she showed me. She said, "Read this." and it
Oh,
said proceeds of the our products
yeah.
go to organizations who fight child trafficking. I'm like, done.
Yeah.
I'll spend it.
Yeah.
I will spend my money here.
Yes.
And so I really do appreciate businesses like that who are setting aside certain amounts of their profit or proceeds to go
Yeah.
for these efforts. And so ways that we can support it is, if you see shops like that, if you see
Hmm.
efforts like that, just like we talked about last week when we were talking about like how do we serve a broader community. One of the ways that we can do this and one of the ways that we can address such an overwhelming problem. And, I understand, like, you can feel really helpless, but there are efforts out there that are, and there are organizations out there that are addressing it. Just make sure, do your
Yeah.
research,
Do
make
the
sure that
research.
they're
Yeah.
trustworthy. Like, I think, anything associated with Tim Ballard, I would,
Yeah. I
track
think it's called
record.
Operation Underground
Operation Underground. Yeah.
Railroad.
And there,
Operation
yeah,
Underground Railroad.
yeah, Operation Underground Railroad.
I
So that's not the only one, but there are
no.
others, other people who are working on this. And so you can do your research. And again, there are businesses out there who are giving to these
Yeah.
organizations, and you're going to see more of it because as the consciousness rises in the
Yeah.
communities, maybe not from Hollywood and from our newspapers or, mainstream
No. No. No.
press or whatever, but there's a certain kind of consciousness and awareness that is rising, and you're going to see different organizations and different efforts to support these organizations come up, and so we will have opportunities.
And
uh,
mine
for
is a thrift store. A thrift
mm-hmm,
store. So, you know, it's that who would ever think that a
yeah,
thrift store, but check
yeah,
every little store, every little small
yeah,
business.
yeah, look for them.
On Etsy, there's probably
Mm-hmm,
people who support, not support, but
yeah,
give to them.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. There is, and every little, every little bit makes a difference and kind of chips away at the silence,
Yeah. It does.
strengthens those who are willing to face the darkness, because
Yeah.
no, we're not, we all can't do that. Most of
Well,
us find it
I
quite
just want
overwhelming.
to I just want to gather all the children, Patty.
Yeah,
I just want to go
absolutely.
find them and
Yeah,
just
me too. Yeah, me too. I mean, you were
yeah.
talking about the children, that you saw and encountered, and after I saw the movie, I was at the YMCA. I talk about the
Yes.
YMCA, and I'm
Yes.
doing my laps, right? And there was a little group of children who were being they were all walking in a line towards the children's pool, for their swimming
Yeah.
lesson, and I was just looking at them, thinking, wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
this
know.
is
I
just
know.
all of these children, and my goodness, protect them, keep them safe. This is what we want most. I mean, children are our most precious asset.
They are.
And
Yeah.
so for people to lead with their politics and say, oh, these are just right-wing extremists who are putting this out. This is some QAnon thing,
Yeah. No.
who are putting it out. This is just conspiracy theory. I really beg people to not lead, like not have your response lead with whatever politics, but,
Yeah.
search your heart. Where do you stand with the protection of children?
Yeah.
Really, and that's really what it's about. There's nothing political about that. It's like, are we going
No.
to protect our
No.
children or not? Are we going to
I
protect our
was a
children
big
or
mother
not?
bear. I was a mother
Yeah.
bear with
I'm a
my
mother
kids.
bear, and I'm not even a
Yeah.
biological mother,
Yeah.
and there's like, I mean, if you look at scripture, and again, I'm not, I'm not somebody, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like a big Christian. I'm not. I'm somebody who hasn't been, but I find there's truth in scriptures, like I believe it's Matthew 25, whosoever shall hurt
Yeah.
the little ones, right? Oh, so who, it would, you'd be better off to have a millstone around your neck
Oh yeah,
and
he
be
did say
dropped
that in
into
there.
the depths of the
Exactly.
ocean. I mean,
He did.
this is Jesus saying, yo,
Yeah. Yeah.
yo, mofos, you
Yeah.
touch the little ones. I'm not going to be all warm and fuzzy and full of love for you. You know what I mean? It's kind
No,
of like,
I like that.
I'm going to want to put a millstone around your. So this is one of those moments, kind of like the moment when he's in the church and he's like, he's, beating the crap out of the Pharisees who are like, money exchanging and, doing all that, that corrupt shit in the church. And he's like wanting to whip their asses and stuff. So you really see kind of like another side of Jesus, right? So another side of Jesus, because Jesus is all love and everything. But then there's this other side of Jesus, like, no, man, you crossed a line. You crossed a line. Yeah. And so I think when it came to children, it's like you crossed a line. And of course he would. Of course he would. Even you go into the prisons. This is why pedophiles are terrified of being convicted and being put in prison, because even these murderers, right? Even murderers and thieves and all of these criminals have a moral code that says, look, you touch the children, I'm gonna
you're mine.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
And they do. And they, it's kind of like your days are limited here, bud. And so I think like we all, so what I'm saying is, let your moral code lead you, not your politics. Like, so many people have politics driving their car, and and what that means is that if politics are driving your car, you're going to miss some moral, some moral lines in the sand that we need to, we need to see. And so, and that means that that children, that you're turning a blind eye to the abuse of children. And we don't ever want politics to get in the way of where we stand when it comes to the safety and the preciousness of our children. So I often urge people to kind of let your heart lead, let your spirit lead, and not politics when it comes to something like this. Yeah.
I would say instinct, because I have a little story about this thing. It's not about, my son was 4 years old and I was dropping him off at a little camp of theater arts or something in the summer. And I'm watching him walk in. You know how they had the little lines of kids. And he was a kid that was always in his imagination. So he didn't pay attention to who was in front, but he was the last one in line. And he was kind of dangling. And I'm like, okay, all right, Amy, just trust. After I went home, I said, I have to go get him. I don't know why. Something told me just to go get him, because either he's going to get lost and they won't be able to find him, or something, because he was a kid that loved to just wander around. I think his imagination took him places and he just went,
It sounds like me as a child. It sounds like me as an adult. But anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
So that's the instinct of a mother. It's like, something doesn't feel right about this, so I'm going to go get him.
Wow.
So that to me is the instinct that I had.
Yeah.
To go pick him
Follow
up.
your instinct. And, I think that's what, I think that there are lots of examples of that in the movie. Yeah. People following their heart, following their instinct, it's like, I can't not do this.
No. Right.
I can't not do this.
Right.
And so when we feel that, it is our spirits, our very soul that is guiding us. And it's our moral compass.
And Tim also said something in that interview too, of what can we do, about the government and how it kind of is in their way.
Yeah.
He just said, get loud.
Yeah.
Get loud.
Absolutely.
So whatever that means for you to get loud, you get loud.
Well, speak about it. And that's why we wanted to do this show.
Yeah.
Because we like to keep things light. We're going to, we talk about, light, laughter and levity and all of that with the ancestors and all of this. We'd like to keep things light. We like to laugh. When we saw this movie, it was like, oh yeah, no, we're doing this.
Yeah. No,
we're going to talk about this on the show. We want to, as two women, and we like to talk about how different we are.
Yeah.
But one thing that we share passionately, is our love and devotion to children.
Yeah.
And that's our line in the sand. that is a very strong line for both of us. And so, so I'm happy to be, doing a show with you, Amy, and sharing these views that we can put out to others. We hope that people, if you haven't already seen the movie, I don't think we've spoiled it too much for you. I think it's still
there's so much
see
more.
Yes,
it brings the story all together. Yeah, it's beautiful. It is a beautiful story.
It really is, and there'll be more. I think that there will be, as we support this movie. I'm sure Angel Studios will be putting out more like this, because there is so much support, because there is, people are saying, yes, this is the kind of movie we need to have out here. And so I think that there'll be more. Tony Robbins. I gotta love that guy.
I know.
I really like Tony Robbins.
He's a big supporter of Tim in his operation.
And this is a guy who walks his talk.
Yeah.
He just does. He just walks his talk. So I'm a big fan.
I've never watched any of his things. Like, I've never followed him.
His inspirational stuff.
No. So maybe I will. I know who he is. Yeah, he's a big giant guy.
Like, he's a big giant guy.
He's
but
a teddy bear.
Yeah,
teddy bear.
Yeah. No, he's awesome, and he is someone. I've listened to some of his stuff, and he is a man who is not afraid of sharing some of his low points in his life and his vulnerabilities, and using those as teaching moments. And I think that's really beautiful.
That's what we do, teaching moments. I love that. I love that, because wow, that is great. That's great.
Yeah. So, and anyway, if you have joined us this week, we so appreciate you being here. We appreciate sharing the journey with you. We are just two ordinary women, two very different women who are on our own journey of awakening and living into the best humans we can be. And we are sharing that journey with you, and we hope that you find some inspiration or laughter or something from spending time with us. So
we appreciate you all. Stay magical, everyone.
Stay magical, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.